everybody, my name is Evan, and I like to draw. And this week, I really let myself go. This is Shin Godzilla, and this is Sully. We're just gonna get right into this. And first things first, we'll put in an outline that I'll lower the opacity to, and use it as a rough sketch to get the final outline going. And then I can just go around adding in all of the lines, but being sure to add in some Sully details where they matter, like giving him his nose and the horns. And for the final part of the top jaw, I can add in the ridiculous amount of teeth, and then move on to the bottom jaw, which is split in two because Shin Godzilla is super weird looking. And then the bottom jaws get their own ridiculous amount of teeth lined in, except this time, some of them close off at the bottom. Ooh, how fancy! And then I'll just repeat the same process on the other side. And then for the inside of his mouth, I can fill it in with a bunch of inside mouth details. That's essentially just a bunch of squiggles and weird looking bits, so yeah, fun times. And believe it or not, below the head is the neck, so I can just go through and add a squiggle line all the way down to give his skin a rough texture. And I'll do this for the little parts that light up too. And then the inside of these little glowy parts get this weird looking mummy bandage wrap texture, and then wrinkles on the outside and little lines in the middle. I'm not quite sure how to describe this, it's really weird. And I'll just rinse and repeat that for the other two parts that light up. Once his manly neck is filled in, I can give him even more manly lines. Oh, he's so strong. And much like Samus Aran, his shoulders are essentially just giant balls, so I can just draw that in, and then go down to his little squiggly arms, which get a ton of wrinkles and folds to show that he's, I guess, not really looking that great. As for his nails though, oh, this guy goes to the salon every Saturday, so I can add in his pristine looking fingers, and then I can just add in little squiggle lines around them to show that they're claws attached to the fingers. And then it's the same exact process except flipped over the y-axis for the left side. Now it pains me to describe him this way, but this guy is thick. So, I can do him justice by giving him the thickest thighs in the world and give them a ton of wrinkles and folds. All the way around. All the way around. On both of them, keep in mind. Oh, I also forgot to mention, he gets mani-pedis every Saturday too, so yeah, the toes look pretty great. As for his tummy, I'll just draw on the line and make it all squiggly like the rest of him, and then I can move on to the other thigh. And just like the other one, it's the same thing. So, yeah. Woo, exciting. So symmetrical. Oh, and by the way, you better appreciate my genius, because I gave him 3 toes, while regular Shin Godzilla's got like 5, so he looks more like Sully this way, trust me. Anyway, I can start drawing the tail, which looks pretty much identical to the rest of the drawing, except then I realized Shin Godzilla's tail has a little face on it, and I said, what if that face was Mike Wazowski? And this is where I started to question my sanity. I don't even know how to describe it, so let's just sit here in awkward silence as I bring one of the world's most horrific abominations into creation. I'm sorry. Anyway, once Mike Watailski is done, I can add in all the little glowy bits and scales to the tail, and then the other wiggly side, and finally put an end to this bit. Ugh. And then the final thing to do is go back up to Shin Sully and add all the dorsal fins on the back, or spikes. And that's the outline of this horrific monstrosity finished, and now on to the coloring. Woo, yay. For the coloring, I'll start with Sully and give him that nice teal all the way around him. And then for Mike Watailski, he'll get his signature green, and then I'll also try and blend the two together. Hey, look at me go. This is done through a super awkward gradient of teal to green, and yeah, it looks weird, but moving on. As for all the exposed and glowy bits of Shin Sully, we'll give him that classic purple like his other spots. And then we can add some lighting to them by giving light highlights on the edge and dark ones in the middle. And the tip of his tail also gets the same color. And it's also the same for the inside of the mouth. I guess everything purple just glows. Oh, and then his nose gets a little, what is this, cobalt? Yeah, it's cobalt. And then his horns get this, oh man, I'm terrible with colors. I don't know. It's like a salmon thing. No, it's not. Let's call it brown. His horns and dorsal fins get brown. And it's also the same for the claws. And the toes, too. Wow, I just love this mysterious color. Anyway, for Mike, his horns will get an actual tan. There you go. I do know what I'm doing. And then his mouth will get a series of terracottas and pinks and reds to give it all that lovely mouth texture we all love to stare at. And his teeth get a very similar color to the horns, but they're ever so slightly lighter. And we'll carry that consistency over to Shin Sully's teeth, because if your tail has the same teeth as your mouth, then you're doing alright. And that's the base done, and onto all of the shading. Now, just like the tail, any of the purple bits will start with a light purple glowy towards the edges, and then darker ones to emphasize glows. And as for the teal covering the rest of his body, I'll start with a very, very slightly darker version that I'll slap all over the place to add some nice details to it. The good thing about this is it blends in and adds a slight bit of texture, but it's very hard to notice, so it looks way more natural. And then after that, I can go in and add the proper darker one, that'll be the actual shadows. And the dark teal gets put over any parts that overlap, so the arms and the legs and all of those. And then with a much lighter teal, we can go in and add some lighting to all of it. Now, regular Sully is covered in fur, while Shin Godzilla's got this bumpy skin texture. So, with the outlines, I'll do the bumpy skin texture, and then using a brush titled Blade Rush, I can then smudge that down and create this nice fur texture. So I'll go and slap that all over Sully, and then do the same for his purple dots, which I will put in Blade Rush all over in parts that they should go, and then I'll take a smudge tool and blend them together so they look like they're part of the teal fur. As for Mike Watailski, he gets the same treatment with the light highlights and the dark highlights slapped all over, except he's a lot smaller, so it only takes like 4 minutes to get it done. And then I can add some shading to his eyes, or I guess his one eye, and then his mouth, which will get lighter bits of pinks and reds. And then the horns get a nice color variant too, to emphasize the texture. Then we can move over to Shin Sully's horns, which all the little bumps and creases will get a dark highlight below them, and then the rest of it will get a gradient starting from light at the top and going darker towards the bottom. And then I'll use those same colors and gradients for the dorsal spikes on his back. And then the toes and claws get some dark at the fronts and then lights at the back. And then all the teeth get some dark shading at the bottom. And that's all the coloring finished, and on to the final details. And the first thing we'll do is add some glowing effects to all of the purple bits. I can do this by having a blend layer on top of a color that'll make it shine and stand out, and then I can run that along the edges and then smudge it to give it a glowing texture. And then once that is done, I can take a lowered opacity solid black, and then I can drag it along all of the parts that would overlap each other, and this will create shadows that kind of bring parts of the picture popping out. And once that is finished, the final thing to do is change all of the outlines to colors that match what they're on top of from a solid black, so the horns get a brown, and the claws also get a brown, and then the rest of Sully gets a nice darker teal to it. And once that's finished, that's us done here, and onto the gallery. I'm at a loss for words. I'm sorry that you had to suffer through all of this, and join me on this terrible adventure with this incredibly
Thick boy.
But, you know, thanks for sticking it out till the end, guys, and I'll see you later.